Just one question. I won't be here for long. Excuse me, I am distracted. I have what I need. See you later.
It's you again, Inspector. So,
The items deposited in Walter Jones' safe clearly indicate that had he not been murdered, the marriage with Baina would have taken place, and you would all have been disinherited.
I was totally shattered to discover this. You know, Inspector, it wasn't always simple to see clearly through my grandfather's intentions. I certainly knew of a liaison between Baina and him, but I hadn't really understood its importance, I confess. I more or less understand the feeling of loneliness that must have weighed him down since my grandmother's death.
This letter that your mother wrote you gives you a very good motive for killing Walter Jones, your real father.
It might make a good motive, I grant you that. But that doesn't make me a murderer. And you know that perfectly well. Proof. Where is your proof, Inspector?
It's coming, Marco. It's coming. In the absence of a will, this letter from Edward Jones to your mother Isabella makes you the principal heir of the Jones Empire.
Really, you talk rubbish, Inspector. You can't forget that our grandfather had the firm intention of disinheriting all three of us, Sonia, Billy, and me.
Why did Walter Jones keep this compromising press cutting?
In the least, one can say that my grandfather had a complex personality. I guess he kept this document to prove he was innocent in the death of his son Edward.
What drove you to give up 10% of your estate to Noland?
Despite everything, I knew how much the Jones Company owed to the talent of Hubert de Noland. I wanted to reward him for everything that he did for the family's wealth. It's as simple as that. The amount that I had planned to give him was not yet fixed. This document was only a plan. In any case, this is not yet signed. The services provided by Hubert de Noland also concern the inheritance of the estate. On this point, Noland could not get me sufficient guarantees concerning my inheritance.
Simbi Laktar. Does this name mean anything to you? I'd like to know if you saw him these last few days.
No, I don't have the honor of knowing this man. Sorry, Inspector.
The murderer would have had us all believing in Noland's suicide if he'd not overlooked this fragment of the letter which changes everything.
I have the impression that you are losing the thread of your investigation, Inspector. I want you to find my grandfather's murderer. This document is a new confession from Noland about his financial swindling to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. And it is also the proof that my grandfather was the person behind Edward Jones' murder.
Don't you find it a bit strange that the housekeeper, Simbi Laktar, could have been closed up in the technical room for 3 days without anyone noticing?
Strange? No. I am ready to bet that an individual who is a bit resourceful can hide for entire months in this tower without anyone noticing his presence.
It seems proven that these gloves are yours and that they were used to hold the arm of the weapon used for the crime. Maybe you don't know that they carry traces of the flax oil that was found on the stock of the weapon which killed your grandfather. What might one think about all that, Marco?
This is all utterly phony, Inspector. Your TV cop flights of fancy don't hold water for 1 second, okay? This tower is falling into the ocean, and we're all going to sink with it, so keep your conclusions for the lunatics who want to hear you. I, for one, want to try first to save my life and get the hell out of here right now.
Do you have any idea of what I found on Simbi Laktar's keycard, Mr. Jones?
No, I don't know. But get to the point, Inspector.
Your fingerprints.
Oh, yes? It's certainly the result of a blunder by Lorenzo. He gave me this card by mistake. He took it back from me and finally gave me the right card, but that's all there is to it.
Yeah, why not? I will dig into this.
Barnes, it's Jones. Did you do what I told you for the rescue? But what the hell are you doing? And so? Okay. The weather. But I don't give a damn about the weather. Okay, it's okay. I get it. Yes. Thanks anyway. Bye.
I just have some questions to ask you. I want justice to be rendered to you, Baina. These were the last wishes of Walter Jones. The items deposited in Walter Jones's safe clearly indicate that had he not been murdered, the marriage with you would have taken place, and the heirs would all have been deprived of the estate. This sordid letter from Isabella to her son Marco gives him a solid motive to kill Walter Jones. Don't you find it a bit strange that the housekeeper, Simbi Lakhtar, could have been closed up in the technical room for 3 days without anyone noticing? I just have some questions to ask you. I want to render justice to your daughter Baina by carrying out Walter Jones's last wishes.
You are a good man, and my door will always be open to you. That is, if we get out of here alive, Jack Norm.
The items deposited in Walter Jones' safe clearly indicate that had he not been murdered, the marriage with Baina would have taken place, and the heirs would all have been deprived of the estate.
The death of old Jones is not a good deal for me, Jack Norm. Baina and Walter Jones were to have married in the chapel of the tower. Walter Jones called it the Chapel of Anna Jones. It is a very secret place. Now, Walter Jones is dead, and no one else can go into the chapel. Yes, this is really a bad situation. I had ordered flowers and sheets for the altar. I had also invited my friends, as well as a shaman, for the ceremony. It was a marriage that would have settled everything properly, Jack Norm. Now everyone is going to lose a lot of money.
Where is this chapel you're talking about?
It is hidden in Jones's tower, near his suite, I think. But only Jones himself knew how to get in.
This sordid letter from Isabella to her son Marco gives him a solid motive to kill Walter Jones.
Old Jones was the most evil man I ever knew in my life, Jack Norm. He hurt a lot of people around him. He was full of poison, and he is dead from his poison. Baina also suffered a lot because of him. And if Marco killed old Jones, then that is a good thing, and I say he was right.
Simbi Lakhtar. Does this name mean anything to you? I'd like to know if you saw him these last few days.
Simbi Lakhtar is a good fisherman and a brave man, Jack Norm. Simbi Lakhtar worked for old Jones. I have not seen Simbi Lakhtar since old Jones fired all the Maledivians.
Don't you find it a bit strange that the housekeeper, Simbi Lakhtar, could have been closed up in the technical room for 3 days without anyone noticing?
Simbi Lakhtar cannot hide in old Jones's tower. A bad man hides. Simbi Lakhtar is a good man, Jack Norm.
Surely.
fear I won't further your investigation, Inspector, but tell me anyway.
Lorenzo, did you give this card to Marco Jones by mistake before taking it back from him to give him his own card?
Well, I wouldn't swear by it, obviously. But I don't remember anything of this at all, Inspector. I can only tell you that it's been a few days since I was able to find it. I thought I'd mislaid it.
I'll come back to see you.
I fear I won't further your investigation, Inspector, but tell me anyway.
Lorenzo, did you give this card to Marco Jones by mistake before taking it back from him to give him his own card?
Well, I wouldn't swear by it, obviously. But I don't remember anything of this at all, Inspector. I can only tell you that it's been a few days since I was able to find it. I thought I'd mislaid it.
I'll come back to see you.
I remember very well that Mr. Jones always...
What was Simbi Lakhdar doing on the island? Marco used Simbi Lakhdar's card on the evening of the murder.
I know that Marco Jones used the card of Simbi Lakhdar the evening of the murder.
Okay, Jack, but you can stop looking for your Simbi Lakhdar in the woodwork. I've got some news on him. He was hired by the airport maintenance service in Sally 10 days ago. So he's got nothing to do with the murder of the billionaire. Check the tracks of Marco Jones. Keep me posted. In fact, Jack, be tactful with Marco Jones. He's an influential man. And this is no time to commit a blunder.
I have to find the criminal quickly, and I have to find the proof to arrest him.
The clues do not match. Are there single or multiple irrefutable proofs of Marco's guilt? Marco's gloves in the shredder, together with Simbi Lakhdar's card, make him the murderer.
The gloves and Simbi Lactar's card prove irrefutably that Marco Jones is the murderer of Walter Jones, who was his real father. Marco Jones forged a false alibi. He was not with his girlfriend Christina the evening of the murder. She was cheating on him with Martin Abruzzi, Sonia Jones's husband. Marco Jones had several reasons to kill Walter Jones.
Wonderful, Jack. Excellent work. Don't lose a minute. Grab that guy and keep him warm for me. The helicopter's having difficulties in Saleh. Problem with a failed rotor that nearly cost the life of 5 refugees and my pilot. He managed to land without too much damage. We're repairing it super fast and we'll take care of you. The mechanic says it'll take at least 3 hours. If you find another way of getting out of there, go for it. Okay, I'll call you. Well done again. Go arrest the jerk.
Yes, I'll put myself to it. Lorenzo? Lorenzo! Wake up, my fellow!
Oh, my head. I have a headache.
What happened to you, Lorenzo?
It's Marco. He hit me. Marco has gone completely crazy, Norm. I don't understand why he did that to me.
Marco!
It's over, Inspector Norm!
But what are you doing?
As you can see, I'm leaving you, Norm!
Marco, you can't abandon your entire family and your fiancée here. This tower could crumble at any second.
No more tower! No other heirs! All of Walter Jones's money is mine!
It's you who killed Walter Jones. I have the proof, Marco. And also Hubert
No
Denolis.
crime scene left! No crime left! What do you say to that, Inspector?
You killed your father, Marco.
Farewell, Inspector!
No! Marco!
What's going on, Norm?
It's over, Lorenzo. Get everyone to climb into the balloon carriage. There isn't a moment to lose. This tower is going to collapse.
Marco, it's horrible.
Yes, Christina. Your boyfriend Marco killed Walter Jones, his own father, and also Hubert Denolant. I have the proof today. Of course, suspicion first fell on young Baina, who accompanied the victim on the path on the evening of the crime. Baina, who had to rebuke Walter Jones's advances one more time that evening. While one could evoke legitimate self-defense, Baina is responsible without a doubt for Walter Jones falling onto the rocks, and I confess that for a moment I thought that this fall entailed the death of Walter Jones. I was wrong. Walter Jones remained stuck in the rocks a few meters below the curving path, imprisoned in his electric wheelchair but very much alive, calling and signing for help.
It was almost night, and moreover, there was the sound of the waves.
I know all that, Sonia. Let me go on, I beg you. The report from the forensic expert received the next day is categorical. Walter Jones was hit by a .270 caliber short Magnum Winchester bullet in the back. On impact, the victim rolled further down from the initial point of his fall to end up on the sand, where he was found the next morning. The bullet did not go through the body. It was lodged in the sternum after it perforated the right lung. On the day that I arrived, I therefore did not notice anything abnormal. The impact of the bullet was invisible. Walter Jones lay spread on his back, a man weighing almost 500 pounds, and I was in no position to turn him. Baina was not the murderer, and my suspicions turned toward Hubert Denolant. I became convinced that Hubert Denolant had made the most of the fact that Mr. Jones was stuck between the rocks, and removed the key to his safe that he always wore around his neck. Mr. Jones, sufficiently lightheaded from his fall and weakened by his handicap, could do nothing to stop him. Obviously, Hubert Denolant's dealings did not exonerate any one of you. In any case, in this business you are all the potential heirs, and therefore have good reason to end the days of the billionaire grandfather, especially if you found out that he'd planned to disinherit you for the betterment of a charming native. Isn't that so, Sonia?
I have nothing to do with my grandfather's death. You know this very well, Norm.
No matter what, my first concern was to find the weapon used for the crime, and I confess that this was not very complicated, because I got my hands on the weapon that corresponded with the projectile found in the body of Walter Jones in his own office. A weapon that in the hands of a good shot is perfectly capable of shooting a bullet from the library to a target situated 200 meters below in the shadows. The prints on the weapon condemned Hubert Denolant. Moreover, he had already taken part in Walter Jones's safaris. He was familiar with this type of firearm and was capable of succeeding with a tough shot. But he was not the only one on this island who knew how to use a hunting weapon. Far from it. And Hubert Denolant denied it with vehemence. Moreover, yesterday evening he promised me that this morning he would tell me the real identity of the culprit. Alas, this morning the poor man was dead. The murder of Denolant was grossly disguised as a suicide. Someone did not want him to talk. And then I discovered that there was another person who had broken into the library at the moment of the murder. Someone who used the key card of a former employee who had left the island a while back. Who had stolen Simbi Lactar's card from Lorenzo's drawer and used it to go into the office and then the library at the hour of the crime? Marco, of course. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Marco slipped into gloves to use the crime weapon and shot Walter Jones.
If Marco's fingerprints are not on the weapon, then how can you accuse him, Inspector? How do you explain the imprints of Hubert de Noland?
De Noland did take the weapon in his hands, miss, but only to remove the eyepiece and observe the scene on the beach. Walter Jones being pushed by Baina. Walter Jones stranded on the rocks, incapable of moving, seriously shocked, but still alive. Basically, Walter Jones finally at his mercy.
And why, according to you, did he not shoot our grandfather? Nolan had good reason to.
Because he didn't think of it. Because it wasn't useful for him. Because he believed him to be dying on the rocks. What's the good of shooting at someone who's already about to die?
Okay, but Marco then?
Marco was in the room. He saw Noland look at Walter Jones, and then he saw him hurry out of the room.
To go grab the key to the safe that was around Walter Jones's neck?
Yes, that's it, Billy. Marco had just found out that Walter Jones was his father, that he had raped his mother. He was in a rage. He took the weapon, repositioned the eyepiece, introduced a cartridge. He waited for Noland to take the key from Walter Jones's neck and leave. Walter Jones was now alone on the rocks. Marco hoisted the weapon, aimed carefully like the good soldier he was. He shot. Walter Jones' body fell down backward and ended its fall further down on the beach.
The proof of all this, Inspector.
As far as his false alibi, it's useless to go there, isn't it, Christina?
No, I think it's right like this, Inspector Norm.
As for the proof of Marco's guilt, here we go. Once the crime was accomplished, he threw the gloves and Simbi Lactar's card in the trash chute. He thus expected to eliminate all traces of his crime. Alas for him, the shredder was conceived for paper and didn't digest the gloves which remained blocked along with the card in the cogs. The gloves bought in Moscow were presumably a gift from Christina and still bore traces of flax oil. This oil is usually used to treat the stalks of precious weapons to bring out the veins in the wood.
You're trying to tell us that the gloves did not leave a trace on the weapon. It's the weapon that left its trace on Marco's gloves.
Yes, Lorenzo, and it's this that incriminates Marco as the murderer of Walter Jones.